Merry Christmas! Settle in, get cozy in front of the fire with us as we share some of our favorite stories of the last year on Next. The impactful, the interesting, the too strange to be true. That's what we were thinking about this first story. The out-of-state Lamborghini driver bragging online that he went flying through Colorado at 190 miles per hour and got off with just a warning from the State Patrol. He even showed off the citation. Our Steve Stager set off to find out the truth about what we called fast, but not so furious.
He goes, "You know how fast you're going?" I go, 200. He goes, 190.
It would be a hell of a story if only it were true. Last month, after pictures of the 190 and a 65 warning were spreading around, we questioned both CSP and the driver, James Teague, the dude wearing a hat that says Lambros. From the get-go, CSP told us Teague just made contact with that trooper and asked for a souvenir. Teague told a different story on YouTube and initially to us. He says he really was going that fast.
This driver was looking for his 15 minutes of fame and put this out there knowing it wasn't truthful.
We asked for dash cam for Master Trooper Christopher Wright from that day, November 2nd. If Wright turned the lights on in his vehicle or got it to a certain speed, the camera turns on. We got 2 of the 3 videos recorded that day when Wright stopped to check on an abandoned car and when he passed a tractor that appears to have dumped a load. No video of a Lambo.
Well, the fact that there wasn't video kind of helps show that this didn't happen. We didn't stop a car going that fast.
CSP spokesman Blake White also gave us this photo taken that day of Trooper Wright posing with Lambro's Lambo.
This Lamborghini driver, affectionately known as Lambro, pulled in behind and started having a conversation.
They've blurred out Wright's face. We've requested a copy without that redaction. It shows the sports car behind the trooper's car, not protocol for a traffic stop.
And the way he represented online was not truthful. And our member made a poor decision to issue a fake warning ticket to play a prank on someone.
CSP would only say that there was an internal discipline process for that trooper who wrote the fake citation. This year, a sitting mayor in Denver was forced into a runoff election for the first time in more than 2 decades. That race between Michael Hancock and Jamie Gillis got ugly. And we heard from a lot of you that you didn't like either choice. So our Marshall Zellinger set out to discover how you would decide.
Are you a Denver voter? Be curious, come on over. We've heard a lot of feedback that they'd like a redo. These aren't the 2 candidates they want. So I'm trying to find out why one or the other.
I vote for whatever her name is, whatever her name is. But we just need change, that's all.
Elaine from Southeast Denver made his mayoral selection 2 days ago.
Did you like debate? I don't like my options.
Well, actually, she's fresh. Okay, if she screws up, okay, we'll vote for someone else. So what?
He and this squirrel are the only ones who would sit with us at Civic Center Park.
I see that city badge, but you still want to come sit and talk.
City employees were too shy, and members of the mayor's staff were too obvious.
I think you know where I stand.
Yes, you want a job next week. I get it.
Since people would not stop and talk with us, we went to where we knew they'd have to stop.
Oh, you look like you've got an opinion.
The bottom one.
Why?
I like them better. Absolute nightmarish choices.
That doesn't tell me why.
Jamie, because she's not Hancock.
Tell me why.
I voted for Kaylin Heffernan in the mayoral election, and neither of the options who've made it to the runoff have really completely captured my attention.
I guess you have to do your research and kind of figure out what policies you like about them the most and narrow it down to which one you think is going to match yours the best.
Are you comfortable not filling out a bubble?
No, I'll definitely vote.
Mayor Michael Hancock won re-election convincingly. He's now in his 3rd and final term. It was a landmark investigation by the state attorney general. 43 Colorado priests accused of sexually abusing young people. If not for 3 women, that investigation may never have happened. They talked with our Anusha Roy.
The call started after a report in Pennsylvania where priests in the Catholic Church were accused of sexually abusing kids.
A couple of these gentlemen are now in their 70s and 80s and have said it was so hard for us to approach this, to acknowledge that the church that we loved was potentially covering up abuse that we had suffered.
It was August 2018. Cynthia Kaufman had roughly 4 months left as the state's attorney general when victims asked her to investigate the Catholic Church.
Did you ever feel like it was you and your team, 3 women, taking on the Catholic Church?
Yes. It did feel that way at times.
She's talking about her former chief of staff and chief deputy who think about it differently. They were just as motivated to move fast and could only do so because of collaboration with the church.
Even if we only had 4 months, we had to get something done for these survivors.
We began together a process of brainstorming what we could do together, mindful of some of the challenges, but still they came to the table and willing to participate.
They said, you know, we believe that there have been no instances of abuse in the Colorado Catholic Church since at least 1998. My reaction was, that's terrific news. If that is in fact the case, let's sit down and talk about that.
It was these women who ultimately laid the groundwork for the investigation before passing the baton to a new attorney general. They are proud of the work they did.
I consider it a first chapter.
But Kaufman said with limited time meant limited scope.
We were not able to include priests who were seminarians at the time of an allegation of abuse. We were not able to include religious order priests.
The report said most of the abuse was in the 60s and 70s and ultimately named 43 priests. Kaufman says she's still hoping for more answers.
Who thought it was more important to protect the priesthood and the church than it was to protect child victims?
The Catholic Church says it's working on a plan to improve the process for victims who approach the church, and they plan to have that soon ready. There are more than 100,000 servicemen and women and their families buried at Fort Logan National Cemetery, each with their own story. On Memorial Day, our Noel Brennan, along with photojournalist Ann Herbst, found a story for us.
It's a beautiful Colorado day. I'm glad the sun's shining.
If you waited for the sun to shorten shadows and spent the whole day here,
yeah, it's a beautiful day.
You'd know him by the end without ever having to meet.
You know, I feel like I knew Jake.
On Memorial Day at Fort Logan National Cemetery, stories from family and friends.
Jake is the smiling soldier.
Keep a soldier alive.
Jake was my cousin.
Jake Wykstra.
Visiting our nephew Jake.
I met him at church.
Jake's my nephew. Known him since he was a little guy.
My son looked up to all the time.
Jake, to me, was one of my best friends.
They spent the morning or the afternoon, and they even traveled.
All the way from Iowa.
Some even cracked cans.
Hopefully the staff won't mind.
And toasted the GI who grew out of his toys.
This little action figure here.
But never grew up.
Goofy, yep. Absolutely.
And goofy is a good word.
Trying to make people laugh.
Goofy's a great word.
Smile.
Goofy
Yeah,
smile.
he was super goofy.
We were just sitting in the chow hall, and out of nowhere, he just goes, "You guys want to see how much pineapple I can fit in my mouth?"
The strangest person I've ever met.
They remember laughter.
No, he's hilarious.
And light.
The kind of dude that you just wanted to be around because he lit up every single room with his stories and his smile, and he just made you laugh.
He was a light, and it's hard to lose a light.
May 28th, 2014.
I was in the actual crash that took his life. Pilots clipped something, and unfortunately Jake was the only one that was killed, but everybody else was pretty seriously injured.
It's important that we don't forget, that we don't take for granted what they've given.
This day is memorable.
He painted a sunset for us.
But the next is more meaningful to a father.
His dad is coming tomorrow.
He visits on the day he lost his boy, and it's too hard to speak. Words he'd like to share have been spoken.
Always smiling, always hugging, always laughing.
And by now, you probably know Jake.
He was the type of soldier that you wanted.
He was just an all-American kid.
Jake was as good as it
Always
gets.
made people laugh and
Put a
smile.
smile on your face.
Still the light in everyone's life.
He loved life. He really did.
For next, I'm Noel Brennan.
The holidays are a time to be thankful. Thankful for your family, your friends, your health, and thankful for the little things. That's what I learned in 2019. We complain about the snow. We joke about the snow. I did not expect to be inspired by the snow this morning. I haven't expected a lot of milestones of fatherhood. I tend to hit them like rumble strips on the side of the highway. Woo, didn't realize we were that close. Had one of them this morning. So I'm getting my 20-month-old daughter up for the day, and she points out the window, rain. And my first thought was, how have we not taught this child the word snow? And then I thought, well, yeah, I mean, she was too young last winter, and it's only October 10th. Right now, all of her books are about fall leaves and Halloween pumpkins. So this morning, we watched the snow together. We talked about the snow together. And the world was fresh and new and wonderful. And if you're a parent, I'm not telling you anything that you don't already know, but I am hoping that you don't mind experiencing it again here for the first time. Fresh and new and wonderful. Merry Christmas. Thanks for spending a bit of it with Next. It's been 9 months since the bomb cyclone buried Colorado in snow, and it revealed the goodness in a lot of our neighbors. And it's something that I can't stop thinking about to this day. All of those people, unknown to us, who made a bad situation better. The Red Cross workers and volunteers, the power crew workers, the National Guard, the law enforcement officers, the CDOT employees, the bus drivers turned shuttles for the stranded, and the Air Force veteran who spent his day driving up and down I-25 to help stuck drivers. It just makes you proud to live somewhere where so many people stand ready to help out. This summer, we had a really insightful conversation with a veteran, and she brought up something that we hadn't given a lot of thought to, the particular barriers to female veterans who are trying to get medical help. For a little perspective, here's our Anusha Roy.
For 6.5 years, Jen Birch served our country in the Air Force. She was a volunteer medic and spent time in Afghanistan.
I was watching people die every other day.
She came back a changed woman whose daily routine involved PTSD, and she felt herself unraveling. Then in 2013, Birch says she tried to kill herself.
And so I take this second opportunity of life to help others.
Part of that is talking about what it's like for women veterans going to the VA for medical care. When she said this last week,
you walk into a VA and sometimes there's catcalls.
It stuck with us. A VA spokesman acknowledged in an email some women veterans have been harassed and they're working to increase their trust so they come in for their medical care. That includes rolling out a program at all their facilities with posters, videos, and training materials to stop any harassment.
Women veterans tend to fall behind in healthcare and mental health care. And I know they're trying to improve it, but they're behind.
The VA said it's made progress in recent years and now provides a variety of healthcare services for women like maternity, gynecology, comprehensive primary care, and mental health services. Since 2008, 5,800 healthcare providers have been trained in women's health, and more than half of their employees who provide mental health services are women.
Your next questions lead us in curious and interesting directions each day. Here's one of the most popular next questions of 2019 that had a lot of you talking. Our next question came from a handful of you, curious about the 4 identical buildings that can be seen off C-470 between Kipling and Ken Carroll. Brian, PT, Lana were among those who basically said, hey, next, what are they? It took a few calls to a few different agencies, but the Jefferson County Planning and Zoning Department had the answer for us. These are disguised cell phone towers. They serve different service providers. It's taken a bit of time to get you that answer, perhaps because the 4 mystery buildings are now 3. One was demolished as a cell carrier consolidated with a neighbor. Keep those questions coming. Email them to next@9news.com, or you can always get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. Refill the eggnog. We'll be right back. If we're taking a look back at some of our favorite stories of the year, how about one of our best adventures? Our photojournalist Mike Grady took Carly Danek from our sister station in Minneapolis on a trip that she will never forget.
The only way I can imagine enjoying the mountains is getting out in them.
I think you're going to like this shot a lot.
Snowshoeing is a good start. This is Crested Butte. It's an adorable mountain town in Colorado, and this past weekend it was inundated with fat bikes.
Fat bikes are the best.
That's the voice of Mike Grady. That's Mike. And that's his fat bike. His excitement for the race is the reason I am here. And he is the one carrying the camera in his backpack. Fat Bike Worlds has several races throughout the week, but the big race is on Saturday. Riders from all over the world race either 16 or 32 miles at the base of Mount Crested Butte.
It's great. It's physically brutal and visually astounding. So you have a really beautiful view of the mountains the whole time, and you're just surrounded by them. You can see kind of the different racers, who's in front of you, where they are on the course, because it's so open, which is really cool. The costumes are great. We had Lieutenant Daniel, I believe, is what the dude who called himself, rocking the shorts. There's dudes in suits. Oh, Scooby-Doo's there. What's up, Scooby-Doo? You know? Ideally, you have a nice packed, pretty hard course. If the snow is loose, it's kind of like sand, and it's hard to get traction, it's hard to pedal, it's hard to turn. I wiped out pretty good a couple times. It was twice in the same spot. It's such a fun atmosphere. It's such a fun race. Even fat biking itself is just really fun. Fat Bike Worlds!
For all the great adventures of this past year, I'm guessing that you did not get through this year unscathed. There is always something. And I appreciate that we can talk about both the highs and the lows of life on this show. My low point of 2019 was saying goodbye to a friend.
12 years is a long time, but not nearly enough time to love and to be loved by a dog. Especially the kind of dog that, if we're lucky, comes along once in a lifetime at the right time. And then they leave. They all will. Porter, it's been a few days since we said goodbye. You were ready. I thought I was too. I was not ready for the quiet. Deafening, hollow quiet. And not just in the predictable places, like when I open the door and don't hear you come running. A walk without the jingle of a leash and a collar. The baby's dropped Cheerios that sit silent and unclaimed on the floor. Porter, everywhere is quiet now. Even the places you'd never been. At work, in traffic, in the middle of a conversation. Maybe quiet is just the sound of a world without you in it. Porter, this is where you would tell me to get it together, to tell people that there are shelters full of dogs like you, waiting to be adopted, waiting to bring joyful noise into someone's life. You would want someone, anyone out there, to hear this and to choose to adopt a shelter dog, to rescue that person from their quiet. Thank you, sweet boy. You filled our lives and our home with the sound of love and friendship. Someday, somewhere, I'll open a door and I'll hear you come running.
It may very well have been the biggest debate of 2019 here on Next. It was you, me, and Steve Steger fighting over whether the term is legal eagle or legal beagle. It was a debate so fierce that an Adams County District Court judge got involved. The Honorable Patrick T. Murphy, Chief Judge of the 17th Judicial District. Apparently, the judge watches Next with his wife, Jill, and he sent in this order. The court finds and orders that any smart and well-prepared attorney who makes an appearance in cases that I preside over will be referred to as a legal eagle, which means that I was right. Steve Steger was wrong. Just for the record, we should note that. Thank you for all the time that you've spent with us this year on Next. I hope that you know that we here on the Next team view you as part of the bunch, part of our work family. The story ideas, the feedback, the constructive criticism, we truly do appreciate all of it. And put simply, Next would not be around without you. You know, the holidays are a chance to do two things: count your blessings and to imagine a better year ahead. So we are grateful for you, for your interest, for your guidance, for your friendship, all the laughs, and we have high hopes for our 2020 together. Whatever this past year has brought to you and your family, we wish you nothing but the best. We'll see you next time.